This is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com. Well, there's been a lot of sentiment, especially in this area and throughout the state of Nebraska, regarding people being against the Keystone XL pipeline, which is proposed, has not yet earned its presidential permit. However, this week, it was a completely different stance as four guest speakers arrived here in York to talk about the safety measures that will be taken, the benefits of this pipeline, and also that they believe it is extremely safe. Now, speaking to a group of several dozen people were Michael Watley from the Consumer Energy Alliance, Andrew Black, who's with the Association of Oil Pipelines, Dr. Burton Fisher, who is a board-certified hydrogeologist, and Brigham McCowan, who is a former administrator for the U.S. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. They talked about the factors that would make this pipeline probably one of the safest ones in America's history. They said that it will be under great scrutiny as it's being constructed and maintained. They also believe that if there should be a spill of any sort, that response would be quick and effective. There was a question and answer session following their presentations.
McCowan, if I may, you said earlier, according to my notes, no one is concerned about this pipeline at the federal level, nor should you be. Isn't it the case that the EPA, for one, has raised a lot of questions about the environmental analysis done by the State Department?
Yeah, let me be clear. I conducted the largest NEPA study ever for the U.S. DOT, and it had to do with implementing NAFTA. This project has now taken longer than the United States took to win World War II. I would submit to you that this has become a political issue, not a safety issue at this point. The only people that are really qualified to talk about pipeline safety is the U.S. Department of Transportation. And those are the only people that are not publicly on the record, and you may draw your own conclusions as to why that may be. I'm telling you that talking to my former colleagues at PHMSA, they have no concern with the pipeline safety.
Yes, ma'am.
For Bert, excuse me.
Yeah.
You talked about the fact that oil and water don't mix, and the dill bit wasn't any different than the crude, and that this oil would float on water, but then that's not exactly the truth in the case of what they're finding with the Kalamazoo River tar sand spill, where a lot of the product sunk in the surface water.
Well, there you're talking about a release into surface water. And
Right.
Surface water releases very different animals because we have something called the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, if you have a mixture, any crude oil, like the Macondo spill in the Gulf of Mexico, or any spill on water, works just this way. As that material devolatilizes into the atmosphere, losing the volatile fraction, what's left behind are the denser, less volatile components, which tend to be denser. And over time, you'll end up with a material that can literally sink. I worked in Cleveland, Ohio. I know I'm probably have a special place in heaven because of that. But I worked there for a number of years in Cleveland Harbor diving. We had a big diesel fuel spill there, the diesel barge. We all know diesel floats on water, and that's true. And if I kept it without atmospheric contact, that would always be true. But when it was spilled onto Cleveland Harbor, and it was a late fall spill, wave action, volatilization, the residual materials in that diesel formed stuff that was dense, and it did sink downward and reach the bottom of the lake. Okay, let's just take that into an aquifer, let's devolatilize it. And in fact, you kind of can after a long time of dissolving materials away and biodegrading that oil. What you end up with is an immobile tar mat. So instead of being able to sink through the water, you end up with stuff that can't move at all. It's going to have a consistency much like the asphalt in the parking lot. It's going to get stuck. Okay. So what you're saying is absolutely true. A spill in water, a spill on the surface where we have an atmospheric component, you can devolatilize material. You'll form denser material that'll sink. If you devolatilize material, it's also much more viscous. If you devolatilize it in an aquifer, it's going to get stuck. It's not going to move at all anywhere.
So now Brigham McCowan, who had made one very prominent position, he told everyone that no one is concerned about this pipeline safety at the federal level, and neither should you be. Well, there were people outside protesting who obviously don't share his ideas and aren't quite yet believers. Again, this is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com.